Los Angeles, city of palm trees, good weed, bad bitches, Hollywood dreams, and nightmares that live in the shadows. The dreams are publicized to the world, but the nightmares, they're often cast into the background, especially when it comes to the impoverished and underserved. And they come wrapped in a thick blanket of corruption within not only the city, but law enforcement as well. Don't believe me? Then y'all definitely gotta stay tuned for this one. Let's get into it. On a warm spring afternoon in 1993, smoke billowed in the sky from a stucco apartment building in Westlake, California. Inside that building was a horrifying scene. Flames raged and children screamed as the building became engulfed in flames, surrounding the inside and the outside of the structure. Sadly, 10 people, 7 of which were children, and 2 women who were pregnant would never walk out alive. At first, local authorities brushed it off as another fire in the ghetto, but as usual, the pigs were way off. As we go deeper into this video, you'll find this was no accident. It was arson, using flames as a weapon. And at the center of it all stood a name that hunted LA County's gang files for decades, Juan Romero, also known as Termite. With his upbringing marked with instability, Romero's story is one rooted in the harsh realities of Los Angeles street life. Born and raised in the Pico Union district of central Los Angeles, a neighborhood long plagued with poverty, overcrowding, and gang violence, Romero's early environment played a crucial role in shaping his path. This area, historically home to waves of immigrant families, particularly from El Salvador, Mexico, and other parts of Central America, has been a fertile breeding ground for some of LA's most powerful gangs, including infamous 18th Street. Like many young boys in this neighborhood, Romero found himself exposed to gang culture at an early age. Older gang members, they often acted as role models and protectors in communities where law enforcement was either feared or absent.
LAPD, that's a gang too, and I'm a LAPD killer, because I hate them.
For a youth searching for identity, purpose, and protection, joining a gang like 18th Street often felt less like a choice, more like a rite of passage. Formed in the 1960s, 18th Street, also known as Barrio 18, is one of the largest and most infamous street gangs in not only California, but around the world. Their formation came from the rejection from several gangs, including Planton 14, who during these years didn't accept people from their gang if they weren't exclusively Mexican. So through this denial, which often came with harassment from these already established gangs, they created their own identity. 18th Street.
The gang marks its territory with graffiti in the 17 square block target area. The city wants to shut down the violence with an unusual injunction. There are an estimated 300 18th Street gang members in the target area.
And from their foundation, 18th Street members made it clear to have each other's back, build a community, and give these youths a sense of purpose and identity in one of America's most dangerous cities. But a shift to a more militant mindset occurred throughout the early 1980s when a daily drug crack cocaine took over Los Angeles, which provided more income for daily weapons and intensified brutal wars already occurring with the local gangs. But now, instead of single-shot revolvers, gang members had assault rifles and MAC-10. And trust, they was more than willing to use them, especially when it came to gangs like 18th Street, whose membership did nothing but explode throughout the 1980s. Romero, who earned the nickname Termite for his small size and his reputation for sneaking into places unnoticed, was recruited into 18th Street in his early teens. And by the time he was 16, Romero had already gained a reputation on the streets as a soldier. Loyal, aggressive, and fearless. His street name Termite eventually became known throughout the Pico Union area and beyond, as his involvement in the game deepened. Life in 18th Street was definitely dangerous, but it offered Termite a sense of belonging and power that the outside world never did. Within the gang, he found brotherhood, respect, and a code of conduct that replaced the broken structure of his home life. Yet, it also came with constant risk. Police raids, rival gang shootouts, and internal power struggles were a daily reality. For Termite, survival meant embracing the violence and learning how to navigate street politics that came with wearing the 18th Street name. And for years, he did just that. And by this time, Termite was a feared enforcer and power broker within 18th Street gang that ruled over the streets of Westlake like a dark prince. And no one rises through these ranks without spilling blood. But because of that, Termite climbed that ladder fast. By the 1990s, he was the muscle behind a booming drug trade in Westlake, working with fellow gang member Romero Valero, also known as Greedy, who also had a daily reputation for being short-tempered and always ready to crash out. Together, they ran extortion rackets, carried out murders, and controlled street-level dealers known as Tracoteros. Like already mentioned, in the 1980s, you seen membership explode, but by the 1990s, the gang kept a steady growth, but exploded in a whole new way. Up until that point, 18th Street had been known to traffic all type of drugs. Shit, whatever you needed, nigga, they had it. But everything really took off when members of the 18th Street Columbia Lil Psycho subset, Juan Romero, and Frank Martinez, also known as Puppet, took over the subset's operation. They started working together in 1992. Termite been a frontliner or foot soldier, and Puppet been an OG or shot caller.
the violence is undisputed. One night involving 18th Street and rival gangs, March 15th this year. At 6 p.m., 5 men shot on Hillcrest. 30 minutes later, a man is shot 3 times. Another gang shooting 35 minutes after that on Santa Rosalia. A 16-year-old shot twice. Then at 8:30, the same night, 2 more gang-related shootings.
From the jump, these niggas was known for a lot. For example, rival gang member Carlos Chuco Lopez put up to Termite's gang territory and was trying to collect taxes from his gang members. But Puppet and Termite, they weren't having it. Things didn't get too crazy that night, but it sparked a war between them that ended deadly for some of the 18th Street rivals. On the night of September 4th of 1994, Termite and another shooter were waiting in a narrow alley in the Westlake neighborhood of Los Angeles. And if you know LA, certain areas have small alleys, making it hard to speed, maneuver, and impossible for 2 cars to get through. This was the perfect setup location for the 18th Street member. At around midnight, Lopez and his girlfriend pulled into the alley. And before the SUV can get halfway through the alley, another gunner, armed with the AK-47, lets off several shots, killing Lopez and his girlfriend. After this shooting, Termite quickly got a promotion, moving up to a shot caller for the 18th Street Columbia Little Psychos. And this promotion gave him the power to do whatever he wanted to do in their areas. And he definitely made the most out of it. Termite, he kept the flow of drugs coming exclusively from his gang. And if he allowed any dealers to sell that wasn't a part of his gang, he charged rent for being on the blocks. Due to all this and a lot more, the gang saw rapid growth in the sale of narcotics. Before he ran things, block members were bringing about 1,000 to 2,000 a week. But when he took over, these numbers jumped to about 7 to 8 grand a week. But what happens when a group of people, especially minorities, start to make a lot of money, whether legally or illegally? Them feds, they definitely come knocking. And that's exactly what played out. The FBI, they start to build an organized crime case against 18th Street. They conducted surveillance on them, tapped their phones, and eventually raided members' houses due to the information they found through the wiretaps. And due to pressure from the feds and rumors spreading around that certain 18th Street members were snitching, particularly Termite, Puppet, from in prison, placed a green light on him, which is basically a move to have him killed. But on November 1st of 1999, Termite was returned to his car from his office when several 18th Street members approached the car, and several shots were fired into the car, killing Termite's driver and severely injuring him in the process. And after all that, the feds, though they had the rat, they needed to help bring down the little psycho. He agreed to work with him and provide the feds with more than enough information to help with their investigation. Based off of that information and his testimony, the U.S. government indicted 26 members of 18th Street and the Mexican Mafia on charges ranging from extortion and racketeering to murder.
Despite 18th Street tattoos and eyewitness declarations, they all deny being part of the largest gang in Los Angeles, one of the most violent gangs. Judge Alan Buckner said you can't deny the existence of a gang when its members wear tattoos and throw signs. He ruled that the city has a right to treat the entire gang as an unincorporated association.
And after his cooperation with the feds, Termite received immunity from all his admitted crimes and went into a witness protection program and moved him out of California due to the danger he was now facing for snitching. And for a while, he lived a good life away from the dangers of street and gang life. But a common cliche that definitely played out in his life is everything will eventually come to the light. Like mentioned, once Termite was shot and arrested by the feds, he started to fully cooperate with them, admitting several crimes that law enforcement already suspected he was in, including murder. But he definitely didn't admit to everything. That's because Carlos Lopez and his girlfriend's murders weren't the only 2 Termite was involved in during his years as a top member of 18th Street. Let's break it down. It's been alleged that Termite also set fire to a 67-unit building on Burlington Avenue on the afternoon of May 3rd of 1993. A firefighter recalled people leaping from balconies while paramedics tried to revive others sprawled on the sidewalk. The smoke inside was so thick, he recalled, it was like being underwater and trying to take a breath. The sickest part about this situation is death and the death toll. While death is ugly from every angle, what made this situation even more tragic was the death of young children and women who ranged from just 1 year old to 2 pregnant women in their 20s, including Lancey Mateo, Jose Camargo, Jesus Camargo, Roselia Camargo, Yadira Vertigo, William Vertigo, Lever Vertigo, Roselia Ruiz, Olga Leon, and Alexandra Roblero. Informants told Los Angeles Police Department detectives that the fire was tied to the neighborhood drug trade. Outside the building stood Chucateros, street-level dealers who sold crack cocaine and heroin all day and night. The building's residents, mostly Mexican and Central American immigrants who subdivided into units or slept in shifts to save money, couldn't afford to move. We all have limitations, said one man, who lost 2 of his nephews and a niece in the fire. We didn't earn a lot, so you can only live in a place you can afford. With that being said though, there were drug dealers everywhere. For the right to work on the corner of Westlake, a dense neighborhood just west of downtown Los Angeles, drug dealers paid rent to the local gang, the Columbia Los Psychos clique of 18th Street. So did the Maristas or wholesalers who supplied them. The Marista who were in the Burlington Avenue area was Johanna Lopez, a gang member turned informant who said she got her start in the drug trade as a tricatura after immigrating from Honduras in 1990. And when she first moved, Lopez was selling cocaine out that same building that would catch fire 3 years later. She said she was confronted by Romero and another 18th Street member named Greedy, saying he and Romero would collect money from the tricateros on Burlington Avenue and Bonabre Street and deliver the cash to the wife of their imprisoned boss, Francisco Puppet Martinez. Lopez said she paid Termite and Greedy $75 a week to peddle drugs outside the Burlington building. And about a year into that arrangement, the two 18th Street members asked if she wanted to move on to supplying the drugs instead of the street sale, to which Lopez agreed. She sold cocaine to 30 dealers who worked in shifts on 2 streets, delivering the gang's $4,000 a week cut to Greedy in a briefcase. And to ensuring sanctioned dealers didn't approach on her business, 18th Street gang members often patrolled those streets. By 1993, Lopez said she was applying dealers on 4 streets and kicking up $25,000 a week to Greedy and Termite. On top of that, in exchange for payoffs, the Burlington apartment building's manager allowed her dealers to flee inside when the police tried to arrest them. But the manager was fired, and his replacement changed the locks and reported the drug sales to police. With that being said, with their earnings dwindling, Lopez met with Greedy and Termite at a pool hall and asked to reduce her rent. But skeptical that the sales were down, Termite said he wanted to hear from the dealers' mouths themselves. So Lopez, Greedy, and Termite walked down Bonabre Street where the dealers confirmed it. And after that, Termite said he was going to take care of the problem. On the day of the fire, Lopez said Termite told her, better leave here, because it's just about to get hot. Also, Salvador Granados, a fellow 18th Street member, testified that around the time the fire broke out, Termite, Greedy, and a third man called Snoopy burst into an apartment down the street from the burning building, carrying trash bags that smelled like smoke. Also saying Termite seemed upset, and Greedy was all red and sweating. And as Granados heard sirens outside, he got up to leave. And on his way out, he heard Termite say, "We fucked up. We fucked up." And just a side note, these streets is grimy as fuck. If you're a kid, just keep your ass in school. There's no loyalty out here, I promise you that. 18th Street gang members Granados and Lopez waited years to implicate Termite and Greedy for the fire, and only after they were facing lengthy prison times themselves. And shit, Termite snitched too, but Greedy, this nigga definitely kicked off a lot of the cooperation going on at the time with 18th Street. Greedy, who helped the FBI record drug deals and introduce undercover officer to gang members, moved out of Los Angeles after his cooperation and found work at movie theaters, a Starbucks, and a Rite Aid. But like I already mentioned, everything eventually comes to the light. In 2013, the LAPD assigned 2 experienced detectives to revive the 20-year-old investigation from the building fire. And by 2022, Termite and Greedy were the primary suspects, which is exactly where the corruption comes into play. Because the FBI never shared its files with their prize informant with the LAPD, which would have solved this case 20 years ago. One of the LAPD detectives said, after requesting records, we'll remember roadblocks every step of the way. Also saying, it was very curious to us because we thought this was such a heinous crime and we felt there were deliberate attempts to not allow us access to a lot of the information. The FBI eventually turned over several terabytes of data and stacks of disks of wiretap calls involving Greedy and Termite. These wiretaps were more than enough evidence needed against the former 18th Street members. New leads, old testimonials, and stacks of FBI wiretap recordings started painting a clear picture. Termite and Greedy, they hadn't just watched the fire unfold, they may have lit the match. For example, LA County prosecutors used the recordings Greedy made at the behest of the FBI to demonstrate he had the authority in 18th Street to order the arson. On one tape, Greedy says, "I was number 1 with Termite, putting in work." Once prosecutors decided to file charges, they traveled to Phoenix, Arizona to arrest Termite. But the property manager at the complex where he had been living told him that he had moved out a week earlier, indicating that he had been tipped off about his impending arrest. This was back in 2016. But with Romero, again like a ghost, he vanished. And he avoided the law for over 5 years, hiding out in California, Texas, and Mexico before he was arrested and extradited back into the US to face murder charges. In court, the man who once swaggered through Westlake with gold chains and gang tattoos stood in the orange jumpsuit, aged, small, and silent. Termite is still going through the trials for these murders, but Greedy has already been prosecuted. And during Greedy's trial, he maintained his innocence, saying he didn't start the fire, he just watched the billowing smoke and horror like everyone else did in the neighborhood. But he was still convicted of the 12 counts of murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But questions remain in law enforcement. How many more hiding behind protections of deals and promises? And how many more neighborhoods still burn in silence long after the flames are gone? What do y'all think though? Did the FBI really keep this crucial information from LAPD over all these years? Or did they just forget about the 12 bodies these 18 street members caught? Y'all let me know in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video or if you're part of the Danger Gang. Y'all stay safe for dangers out there.